something you do with experience over time, and it's so odd to now be referring to Magnus as the old dog, right, whenever he throws down. But it's true. He's on the veteran side of his career, right? And you see all these young players coming up in this event, the two youngest being Pragg and Firouzja, but they're coming, right? The next generation is here. They're not going to be stopped. But when you see Magnus pull out a move order like this, a bit of a sneaky, tricky kind of shuffling, experience is going to pay off, and I would not be surprised if Pragg finds himself in trouble a little bit later in this one.
Yeah,
and it's so key what you mentioned about the pair of bishops and how Praggnanandhaa likes the pair of bishops. We all have our personal preferences in chess, even if objectively one or the other could be better or worse or the same. But we all have the things that we like, what kind of positions, what kind of minor pieces. And in this position, he cannot really avoid his bishop being traded off. If you move the bishop away, then the c4 pawn is hanging. So he's kind of forced into a position that probably he wouldn't have chosen by his personal preferences. What do you think, Danny?
I totally agree. And David, and when Pragg found it, he never looked back, as you could see. This has been absolutely incredible. Praggnanandhaa is, he's also just comfy there. He works hard at the board, but feels like he has a presence that he knows this is no longer a surprising result for him. He expects to get the job done when he has white against anybody, even if it's Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah, and it feels like if we didn't know who his opponent was, you would think that he's playing against someone that maybe has less experience or lower rated. From the way he dominated this game, it's crazy to know that this is Praggnanandhaa versus Magnus Carlsen. This is an 18-year-old chess rock star taking down the #1 player in the world with a move like king to h2. I would not be surprised if this becomes the move of the day, by the way. King to h2, move of the day. That would be my candidate.
Move of the day. He's 18. By the way, didn't Gukesh turn 18 like today?
Today.
So the
Happy
couple,
birthday.
some 18-year-olds
Happy
out there.
birthday.
Happy birthday to Gukesh, perhaps from your countryman Praggnanandhaa, getting a dub for you.
What a present. What a present to India as well.
What a present to India, a present for Gukesh. Prague is on the verge of delivering, beating the tournament leader, and I don't think Magnus Carlsen has much more in the tank here. You asked a question earlier, Anna, whether this position was survivable.
So, mentioning this because he's one of my best friends out there, Magnus, but the only way to beat him, attack. Players respect him too much, swap off queens, try to play for a draw. You never ever see Magnus lose an endgame. You never see him get outplayed positionally. It's just king safety. He didn't castle his king. He gets mated, and this does happen from time to time. The kind of classical losses, rapid losses, blitz losses he has, they're only ever due to king safety issues. So keeping the queens on by Pragg, inspired decision, going for the attack, and the way he executed it. Not many people capable of that, of course, but impressive stuff.
Does it mean, David, then, in your opinion, that sometimes you kind of need to not respect how strong, how experienced your opponent is, that you're playing the world #1, the man that has ruled the chess world for over a decade by now? You somehow need to forget all those titles and just go and play always one move at a time. Is that the recipe? As much easier said than done, of course.
I told you, if Magnus could just show up in a mask and they didn't know they were playing him, you know, maybe they would launch more attacks. No, but David, I agree. It's easier said than done, of course, but you have to be aggressive against Magnus Carlsen.
It's the only way.
And it's paying off for Pragg. He has he's known one speed in this game. And that speed, I believe, was like 178 miles per hour. It was speeding. It was illegal how fast he was going, and Pragg has kept his foot pedal to the metal all game. And
3,000 miles an hour, this one. I'm actually just remembering, I was going to mention Qatar Masters, where Magnus lost to a far lower rated player. He got attacked, checkmated pretty much. That was also a hedgehog. So Magnus, maybe the hedgehog isn't his favorite animal after all. This opening coming back to bite him.
Interesting.
And we really praised him so much for the opening choice, and we thought that Pragg was going to be uncomfortable, but he proved us all wrong. He proved us that it didn't matter, that it's not the kind of opening he wanted or that he prepared for. He was ready for the fight no matter what. I love that they are so disrespectful in a way, that they go for it. These youngsters, Praggnanandhaa, it's the best approach against the experienced top players of the world, that you just... Oh, I thought that was resignation for a second.
Rook to g8.
The king almost fell, but it's rook to g8.
It does lose the rook, I believe, so I'm not sure what the trick is. David, you spot something?
You cannot check. I thought it lost the rook as well, but if you check, the black king hides g7, h8 into the corner.
Ah, okay, yeah. Okay, so it doesn't lose the rook.
Yet.
It doesn't lose the rook yet.
What about our other threat? Our other attempt was queen b3.
Queen to b3. And there's no rook takes g2. That was my first thought. Is there a sacrifice by the rook and some sort of renegade perpetual check by Magnus? But I don't think so.
Pragg is about to play queen to b3.
Yep.
Yeah, and queen b3 has another idea as well. If, for example, black blocks with d5, then you give the check. And if king g7, then you slide the white queen across to g3.
Oh, nice.
So there's actually
very pretty that the g5 will be then crucial. Queen to g3, picking up the rook on, I think, just the last attempt by Magnus Carlsen, whether Pragg will play the winning move, and he does. Queen to b3, threatening checkmate on f7, and there is no defense for the world #1. This is it. Game over. I think he might play one move more, perhaps, or not even. What do you think, David? d5 and then see what happens, and then resign.
d5, but now, as we mentioned, this check is decisive. The black king cannot snake its way into the corner. If the black king tries to enter the g file, there will be another check, a second check from a new angle, and game over. Magnus is trying to keep his poker face. Normally we see more head shakes from Magnus, but I think he respects how accurate Pragg has been today.
Yes, he definitely respects him a lot. And
Wow.
Takes
Pragg
h7.
takes the pawn on h7 instead of the check that we were expecting.
No, but this is great. Threatens checkmate in
Oh,
2.
it's perhaps even stronger.
With queen to b8 check.
There were multiple ways of winning.
Multiple ways of winning. Magnus maybe plays queen d6, maybe resigns. Queen d6 is met by queen to b7, because then there will be no more rook sacrifices on g2. And there you
And
go.
there it
Magnus
is.
Carlsen has resigned. Praggnanandhaa has beaten the world number 1, the former world champion, but greatest player of all time, arguably, Praggnanandhaa. The future is bright. And currently, the stars are shining here in Norway. The youngest player in the field gets it done, beats the tournament leader. They're discussing something about the variation, but either way, India is discussing whatever party they're going to throw now.
For Gugash's birthday, for Praggnanandhaa's win over Magnus Carlsen, Vaishali leading the women's event. There's so many reasons that they need to celebrate.
Absolutely wild. Praggnanandhaa and his sister, by the way, getting it done here. Vaishali is leading the women's event, if you didn't know that.